it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a very frequent question that I am receiving in, and that is how to cope when you're a family of origin, your parents or now maybe your siblings are narcissistic. In other words, they are not able to have or display empathy. They're not able to really show you the love. They're not able to show you the support. They are, in essence, kind of the flip side of nurturing. They are unsupportive. They don't want to hear it from you. They don't want to hear your feelings, opinions, your voice. They might be abusive physically. They might cause a lot of distraction in the environment, and it makes you feel very uncomfortable, but yet you feel like you have to over-identify with them because they are the parents in the household, and you have really no other choice right now, or perhaps even you're older and this is still your family of origin, and family gatherings are becoming uncomfortable. The correspondence isn't natural. You're feeling that you need or want to stray away, and maybe you're kind of in the valley. You're kind of in the low part right now, where you're feeling, a lot of people, tend to hurt themselves or get themselves into predicaments where they then need to create a dependency on other institutions or other things in order to really stay afloat, in order to really survive, and they're not really thriving. They're really in a sort of stuck state of being, and that can happen when the family of origin is narcissistic in nature. And how to understand it is to understand it. That will be your number one tool. If you can understand that those people who have a pathological sense of self-importance, and this is for your knowledge only. This is not for you to, yell and name call or try to categorize people. But if you can just use it as an open understanding, because we're not diagnosing or treating people here through this video. It's merely to be a tool of knowledge, information, and support, and give you some enlightenment on how to effectively live through the experience. Realize that narcissistic parents will basically view their family as an extension of themselves. So if they have a weakness and they perceive this weakness to be into you, or they have an insecurity or even a jealousy about their children, they will very often lash out, scapegoat, and put a lot of criticism and judgment and fear and chaos into that person's life. They are not very nurturing. They are very much the flip side or the opposite. And that is because this person has not been able to work through certain inadequacies, certain insecurities, or certain life events that they have experienced. So what they are doing is, rather than dealing with it, they're pushing it aside and pushing it onto you or projecting it onto you. And oftentimes the projection can be a very direct correlation to what they had experienced themselves. In other words, if in their family of origin there were some issues where they were mistreated, they were abused, they weren't allowed to speak up, they weren't allowed to live the good life. Perhaps they came from poverty, or physical abuse, or alcoholism, or drug abuse. All those different things, which then was the environment that they were raised in. And this person then has not come to terms with it and said, I deserve a better life. I'm going to give a better life and fair treatment to my children, and I'm not going to be divisive. If they did not have that sort of cognition, then oftentimes they are going to be acting out what was done to them. In other words, it's very much like carrying of a torch, if you will. If you've ever seen like a relay race where they hand it off, basically the baton, and then the other person takes off, that's very much how I view the raising of narcissistic families. It's as if they're throwing the torch off to that next generation for them to carry and then work through. So then it becomes now very much a part of your life purpose, your life plan, your life design, your life destiny to work through that yourself. And the exciting part is that now you're at a stage where you can basically undo a lot of that harm that was done. Yes, certain things have happened. Yes, you might feel deprived. Yes, you might feel like certain things are unfair. But you can now see that you are separate from that and that you are not in that way. And then you can make the conscious choice through awareness to say, I am not going to live that way. I personally, as the caring, sentient, spiritual, psychological, and emotional feeling person that I am, I'm not going to engage in that same pattern. I'm not going to drink myself like that. I'm not going to drug myself like that. I'm not going to anger myself like that. I'm not going to force myself. I am not going to have that negative feeling and that anger all the time and live under that pressure, which is really within that person. But yet when you're around it, you feel as if you are stressed. Stress comes from within, and it's because you don't oftentimes have the tools or resources for how to deal with it. So you might have then taken on and soaked up a lot of that negative energy because that is how that person has scapegoated you or really kind of singled you out as a source of supply to give them a reason or like a stepping stone to feel better about themselves. So in other words, if you can be lamenting and be suffering, they don't have to suffer it. Basically, you're having to work through it, and they take a certain sort of it's like instead of them working through this, they're then inflicting this pain onto another person. So they're like, you deal with it. It's very much like them taking a lack of responsibility for the situation and making you become basically responsible for it now. So you might have that wake-up call and say, okay, I am now the one who has to take responsibility. I have to essentially be able to parent or direct myself in those levels that are needed. Physically nurturing, emotionally nurturing, intellectually nurturing, spiritually nurturing. You might need to go up on all those paths on your own, explore, and then see if it's right what's for you, and literally pick yourself up like that. And really develop the self-talk that reflects a sort of nurturing tone, modality, and frequency, and it's like, I've got you now. I've got you here. I'm going to take care of you now. That other person, they weren't able to do it. They weren't able to give you what you're needing, what you're looking for. They were not able, and I'm going to let them go in love and light, basically through understanding that this is their shortcoming as an individual, and I'm not going to live in the denial anymore. I'm basically going to say, okay, it is what it is. I'm not going to try to seek closure with this person because it's going to cause a lot more fighting, anguish, chaos, and suffering. And instead, I'm going to learn this within myself as an individual human being. Why? Because that sounds like the torch that you now have to carry, or what sometimes people say is the cross that you have to bear. In other words, it just means part of your life purpose might be learning how to take very good care of yourself intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. You might need to do some research. You might need to do some grocery shopping. You might need to do some studies. You might need to do some writing. You might need to learn about the images which strengthen you. Kinesthesiology, the study of physical movement. The great Dr. David Hawkins talks about how a smiley face resonates more strongly with you, and an unhappy face makes you go weak. In other words, it makes your whole body want to just drop everything. And oftentimes, if you are in a family of origin with a lot of narcissistic individuals, it's like being surrounded by that constantly unhappy face, the disappointment, trying to use you as supply. You're an extension of them. They're not able to be big enough of a person to be able to give you the love, give you the credit, give you the acknowledgement. They are, sometimes you see, what is it, like the Oedipal complex, where, mothers are jealous of their daughters, and so they tend to, scapegoat on them. And the same goes with the men. And then relationships aren't allowed to function because one might be like a surrogate spouse. Because of some sort of Oedipal jealousy. I mean, there's all sorts of studies about this. But the main issue is for you to be declarative and be decisive and take radical action in saying, I'm the one who's now going to take charge of me, my emotional health, how I experience life, how I live life on terms now, which are not just out of criticism, shaming, anger, chaos, and hostility. Those are not going to be making you stronger as a person. Yes, there's certain pride to overcoming certain conflicts, but not on a chronic basis. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for the human body to be surrounded by that. As you can see, I'm doing this video out in nature today, a beautiful setting. A beautiful setting where there's lush, the air is very peaceful. The vibrations from the water, everything going green is very peaceful. Those are the kinds of new foundations you need to seek for yourself. Give yourself permission, and then forgive this person who is narcissistic in nature. Realize that that is the wiring, and it's almost as if, and I was thinking earlier today that it's almost as if you have a cancer victim, and in your life, and you don't have the professional knowledge as to how to help the cancer, but you're around a cancer, so you become, problematic in your life. It's it's very difficult to come up with the professional tools and coping tools with how to develop relationships with these difficult people. So such is the goal of this channel, is to help give you the knowledge, the tools, and the understanding of what a narcissistic person is like, to understand that they don't have empathy. They're oftentimes not able to be nurturing and supportive of you in the way that you need. Instead, they're just going to be a lot more force, a lot more pressure, a lot more stress. And just acknowledge and understand that this is how this person is. This is how your family might be, and to let it go and say, you know what, I'm okay with it. I don't need them in terms of those things that they cannot give me. I realize and acknowledge that, and I accept that. So now I'm going to surround myself not only with goals, activities, and emotions that do give me that, but I'm furthermore going to seek in this, in this great world, other experiences and people which can fill that well inside of me, so I'm able to live that happy, blissful, joyous life. I'm going to take that health into my own hands. And please do it today. Don't put that off. And continue to watch the videos here with Peace and Harmony for more great videos and support. And please, thank you so much for your viewership. Thank you for your input and your questions. Love you.